Hi everyone, trust you all are doing well, and welcome back to another Eloquent lesson where we can learn about Eloquent relationships. And this one is the polymorphic many-to-many relationship. Right, this is just a continuation from the next one where we can still use the article and the thread and the comment, but the comments we're not going to use, only the thread and the article. Now, we're just going to do a many-to-many relationship because one tag can have many threads, and one thread can have many tags. That's why the many-to-many relationship. So if it was just those two tables, it would have been a normal many-to-many, but since an article can also have many tags, and one tag can have many articles, that's why the polymorphic is needed right there. All right. Otherwise, you needed to create 4 tables instead of just 3. All right. Because let's say you add another model that's basically going to need tags again, so that you can see how the polymorphic can just help you out quite a bit. All right. So now the thing is, if we want to define this relationship, we need to obviously create our tag model, which I've already done. So I got my tag model right there. And we obviously need the migration for that as well. So I've already created that migration right there. But there's another migration that we also need on its own. Basically, it's the link between the article, thread, and our tag model. So we need to create that table right there just to link all those models together, all those databases. All right, so how do we create that migration? All right, so let's do it. So PHP artisan make migration. All right, so the migration basically, it's, you remember we had the commentable right here. Let me just show you. Right here, we're going to have a taggable. But the thing is, we're setting it up a little bit differently. And now the thing is, let me show you. Like create taggable. taggable. All right, create taggable. Right, so we got that done. So basically what we do is with PHP artisan make migration creates taggables, the reference to that taggable trade. Right, so this is going to be our intermediate table. All right, and it actually just creates a taggable. So if you press enter, and it just creates that database for that migration for us. Now, if we go to our database migrations, you would see we got our migration right there. All right. So now the thing is, we're going to set up the schema now, but before we do that, we just want to set up the relationships between the models. Okay, so let's do that. So let's go to our tag model first. Models tag. All right. So now in our tag model, we need to reference, let's say, which elements must be taggable. We need to do that from here. So every single one. So if, let's say you added another one, just called post. All right. So you need to reference it inside your tag model, that relationship. So the first thing we're going to do is a public function. Right. And this one is going to be morph by. Okay. So this one is obviously going to be the threads. Okay, and then basically we return this morph by many, and then we're going to obviously call in the thread model right here. But now here's the key. We need to reference that relationship, and we called it taggables. Taggables, like this. Right, just make sure you kind of, otherwise we're going to, there's going to be singular taggable. Right, obviously that's done. So we need to also add one for the articles as well. Articles right here. Nope. Articles right there, and obviously reference the article model right here. Right, so we can have our taggable. Now we need to set up the inverse between the models and our tag right here. So this is a morph by many. So if we go to our thread model, we basically need to return, right? Basically, we need to return the tags because one thread can have many tags and one tag can have many threads. Okay, so in this one, we can just going to do a morph to many. Okay, so morph to many. So this can just return this morph to many and morph to many tags. Clause, and we obviously have to refer to that relationship taggable. Okay, like that. Right, let me just save it right here. And basically what we can do is we can just basically copy everything in that whole method and just paste it inside our articles table because they're going to have the same thing. We obviously have to make sure we import it at the top as well. Class is imported, all good. Right, so now that we have defined our relationships between our tag, thread, and article, now the next part is we need to set up our schema for that relationships. All right, so let's do that. So inside our database, right here, migrations, we've got our tags table, which I obviously changed to the name because every tag is going to be a different name. Now the next thing before I do that, let me just go to my model. Model, tag model right here. I just want to add a protected fillable. Just for the, or you can set the guarded to an empty array, but I'm just going to do this because this is kind of what I'm used to do. So just for protection measure. Right, so let's go to our taggables table right here. Now the next thing that we're going to need here is obviously we need to reference the tag ID. So basically table, and this is basically, it's basically like a foreign key that we're going to add here for our taggables table. Now this foreign key is basically going to reference our tag ID, right? Because the tag has basically got their own table. So if we go to the tags table right here, as you can see, it got its own table. All right, because we want to also let the user be able to create their own tags. So instead of just seeding the database with tags, we want to give the admin or whoever you build the website full control to be able to create, update, and delete tags as they wish. All right, but we're going to reference these tags inside our taggables table. So I'm just going to do a foreign ID, and this is going to be the tag ID. All right, and I'm going to constrain it basically to the tags table, like this. Now the thing is, one viewer asked us why I don't explain why I said let it be empty. I was just thinking, otherwise the videos get way too long, as some have complained already, but I might do a series where we can be able to discuss what the foreign ID actually is, what it does in the database, and all that kind of stuff. All right. But for now, we set up our foreign key. Basically, it's an unsigned big integer that references ID on all that kind of stuff. Okay. Let me just show you guys. So if this does basically unsigned big integer, tag ID like this, and table foreign. Okay, so if it's a bit new to somebody, so basically tag ID like this, and references ID on tags table. Okay, so I don't want to type out the whole thing. On tags table, on delete, update, cascade, set null, whatever you guys want to do with it. All right, but normally what people would do in this case, if it's a taggable table, they will actually just leave it unsigned big integer or just integer. But in my case, I just want to kind of set the foreign key constraint as well inside that table. But just remember, when you reference a foreign key, just make sure it's above your migration. Otherwise, you'll get a foreign key constraint incorrectly formed when you do the migrations as well. All right. But the next part that we're going to do is we need to add that morphs to morphs like this. And we're just going to call it taggable. Like the same way that we did the migrations. Let me just show you in the comments table. See? Morphs commentable. Now the thing is we just do morphs taggable. Now as you guys can remember from the previous lesson where I've showed you, this is basically giving us two things. It's giving us a string unsigned big integer, and it's going to basically be our taggable it's going to be our taggable ID, and the other one is just going to be a string of taggable type, like this. String taggable type. All right, so basically that's what it does when we do that morphs. Just for the guys that is new to the channel, right? So that morphs basically to put these two columns in our database. All right. So when you guys refer, when I said this will add this table, I'm just referencing the table name right here, basically, not the table as a table itself in the database. All right. So let me just delete that. All right. So basically now we've set it up our schemas, and we can actually migrate the database. I'm just going to seed it with a couple of tags as well. All right. So basically I migrated the database. As you can see, we've got our articles right here, and we've got our tags right here as well. So basically what I want to do is I've just created a fake city names and through Faker. So I'm just going to use these right now. All right, so let's go to VS Code to actually see if we can attach one of these tags to an article through the relationship. So let's do that. So as you can see, let me just go back before we do that. You will see we've got our taggable stable right here. As you can see, we've got a taggable type and a taggable ID right here. Okay. Another thing that I want to do in my thread model right here, I just want to add with timestamps as well. But you obviously don't have to, but I just want to add them with timestamps. And so let's do that, and also for the article as well, just want to add with timestamps. Right, so we got that done. Now the next thing that I want to do is I want to open Artisan Tinker and actually work with see if we can add some tags to our article. Okay, so what we do is PHP Artisan Tinker. All right, so, and we're going to create an article. We just want to find the first one. So app models article. Let's find the first one. Just the first. Okay. So we got our article right there. And on the article, I just want to get our tags. You see our tags relationship. And what I want to do is I just want to attach, or we can sync, right? We can do the attach method like that, or we can do a sync. But in our case, let's just use the attach. I don't want to attach ID number 1. So let's do that and see what it looks like in our database. Now, as you can see, we got our ID right here, the ID of the database, the taggables ID. Right, then we got our tag ID right here. And then we got our taggable type as article. If you didn't set up the map, remember from a previous episode, let me show you. Right here, let me make this a little bit bigger. Under app providers, app service provider right here. Let me just minimize our terminal. you will see your relationship under the boot method. You will see relation, morph map. You will see your article, just references your app model article, comment, thread, and obviously our tag right here. But we don't actually need to add the tag. I just wanted to add it there just as reference, but we don't need to add it right there. Okay, so let's go back to our database. Right. Now the thing is, you remember that I just wanted to add it in here. Alex, have kind of one of our viewers just say why we added constraint and things like that. The constraint to users. Now, basically what I've done now is our database SQL now knows if I reference the ID here, it actually remembers it in simple English. It remembers it in the first table of our tags table. So you can kind of have that, it links it to that table right there. All right. But there's actually more in-depth explanation, but there's a most simple explanation I could think of. All right. And then obviously we have our taggable type, which is the article, and taggable ID, which is the one right there. Okay. So what if we want to do the inverse? What if we want to find out if we select the tag at the ID of 1, what articles or threads are associated with that tag? Okay, so let's do that. All right, so let's find the first tag. So tag equals to app models tag. And we obviously, because we only link the first one, obviously, so we just want to find that tag. And then we want to do the inverse. So basically tag articles, the relationship, and let's see what it returns. With timestamps is false. I just called on the whole thing, but we remember they come back as a whole collection that we need to for each. But I just basically just want to return the first one. So I'm just going to do tag articles. Just bring me the first one. All right. So as you can see, if we do the inverse, basically we can just return that first one. All right. Now, this is going to be the bonus part of the lesson. So if you want to stick around, you can stick around, but this is just for the people that just want to gain a little bit extra, but it's not necessary. As you guys, this is basically all of it. Now, basically what we're going to do is we're going to just create a helper trade called has tags, and then you can add that helper trade into any model. Basically, if you have many models that are going to require tags, then you just add that trade inside that tags. Right. For those that are finished, we all finished with the lesson, but this is just the bonus part of the lesson. All right, because this is the last part of our Eloquent series. And I'm just going to do a relationship series. So I'm just going to do a bonus part. All right, so let's do that. So let me just exit Tinker. All right, and close this. So now the thing that we're going to do now is, let me just give myself a little bit more room like this. Right, under the app, we're going to create a new folder called helpers. Like this. You're going to create this folder quite a lot during your development career, where you're going to create useful methods for yourself to make your job a whole lot easier as a developer. Let me just close off these tables. Right, so what are we going to do in there? We're going to set up this whole relationship that we have defined right now, but we're going to use a helper to do that for us. Basically to sync our tags, to remove tags, and all that kind of stuff for us. All right, so how do we do that? All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we need to create a trade. So inside our helpers right there, we're going to create a new file called has tags.blade. .php, not .blade.php. All right, so enter it. So basically you get a folder like file like this. Obviously your PHP tag right there, you're opening and closing. And then obviously you need your namespacing as well. All right, so we're going to use our namespace and obviously refer to the app/helpers folder right here. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we need to bring in our tag model. So we use app models and obviously our tag model. All right, now the thing is, what we want to do is we want to set up that whole relationship inside this little part right here. So basically, if we call on this relationship, on this hashtags inside our model right here, let me just go to one model. You can see the trait that I got here, has factory. Now what we're going to do is we're just going to call it in, let's say in here, and we're just going to say use as tags like this. All right, so let's create it first. And so inside our hashtags right here. Now the thing is, we're going to create a trait. Okay, the trait is going to be called as tags. Now in here we're going to have a couple of methods. Now the first method is going to be basically our tags, which is going to return our tags relation. So we're going to do a public function tags. Now this tags is basically just going to return the relationship. So basically return this. This is, like I said, if you do a small website, it's not a problem. You don't have to do this at all. But it's kind of useful to know. So especially if you get larger websites, you have to do the same thing over and over and over again. Like the principle in coding is dry, don't repeat yourself. So basically we're doing all this stuff in here so that we don't have to repeat ourselves. Okay, but anyways, we're going to return the tag relation, but we obviously haven't created this yet. So this is a method inside our hashtags. Okay. Now let's return that relation. So public, let's just do public function, and this is going to be their tags relation. Right, now this tags relation is basically that morph to relation. You remember the morph to many. Okay, so that is this relation right here, the tags relation, this one. Okay, but we will delete that, but I will show you. I'm just doing it this way so that you guys can see. So we obviously import it right there. Now basically we're going to do return this. Okay, morph many. My brain at the moment cannot type as well. Okay, morph to many. My spelling is something wrong here. Many. Nope, all is good. All right, so morph to many. Obviously, we're going to add the same thing. So as you guys remember, the tag class like here, and then we obviously have to add that taggable right here. Taggable, that relationship right here, and obviously add the timestamps with timestamps. The reason why I was wondering if I'm typing the wrong stuff is because it's not fulfilling the whole thing by itself. So basically the suggestions doesn't come up. So that's why I thought maybe I'm typing something wrong here. Right, return this, morph to many. So basically we set up that relationship. Basically, if we call on this tags, now let's say we're somewhere in our controller and we actually call tags like, let me just use an example. Article.tags, like here. Right, then it basically calls this tags relation, and that tags is basically calling this right here. All right, that's all it does. Okay. Now the next thing is we obviously want to sync our tags. So we create another method in here. So public function. This is all just useful stuff. So just to kind of make our job a whole lot easier. All right, sync tags. And this is basically going to be an array. And obviously we're going to pass in the tags right here. This is a variable. Okay, and then we're going to say this.save. Then we basically save that, and then actually this.tags relation. So basically the one that we created right here, and then we basically want to sync the tags. Okay, or we could have used the attach, but I'm going to use the sync method for this one, like I explained before. Okay, and then basically this dot unset relation. Obviously call unset relation, and basically we want to unset the relation that we just, the tags relation that we just created. Okay, unset relation and tags relation. Right, and the next part, let me just make sure I missed a semicolon right there. And the other one is obviously when we remove the tags. I'm just going to call this remove tags, and basically this tags relation, and we just want to detach instead of attach. We just want to detach or sync. Okay, so we want to detach, and we don't need to pass in this, and then obviously that. Okay, so we just created a couple of methods in our trade. So basically we call the tags, then basically it calls the relationship. So if you want to sync the tags, we call the sync tags method. Basically it saves it and set up the tags and all that kind of stuff for us. So basically that's kind of our trade in there. Now the next part is basically in our articles. Basically we can just call in that trade right there, so we can actually use it. Right, so let's go in our tag thread right here, and basically can call in that use as you can see, it comes up like here. As you can see, the other trades that comes with the installation has themes, has events, kind of the naming convention. So we pull in our hashtags right there like this, and you can see it bring in a helper right there on top, and we don't need to do this at the bottom right here. Okay, and same with the article as well. We can remove that, and we can just use the trade right here. Use as tags. Right. I know this is not for beginners. This is more or less for people that more or less know PHP or a little bit of, yeah, this more PHP stuffish. And yes, guys, and that's it. So that's how you can create a helper, and you can actually add it now. Let's say we add another one for post. We can actually, instead of doing the whole relationship shebang, we can just use the hashtags. Okay, and that's it. Thank you guys for watching. I know the video is a bit long, and yes, like it if you like the video. I know everything is clear as mud, and like it if you like it, dislike if you didn't like it. Positive or negative feedback is always appreciated. And yes, I'm going to be working on a trigger, not a trigger, a ticket system, where we'll be able to build a ticket system where we're going to use admins, moderators, and supervisors, where a ticket is created and can apply the ticket and mark the ticket and all that kind of stuff. So that is planned. So I'm going to be doing that, and actually you can download basically the repo from GitHub, but not with all the functionalities inside just the HTML, the blade part of it. So that you guys can follow the lesson without me having to actually type in all the kind of stuff. So we just focus basically on the coding part of it and not the HTML and tailwind stuff part of it. Right. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.